When we envision the world that shaped our earliest ancestors, we typically imagine a landscape dominated by predators. Saber-toothed cats stalking the savanna, massive hyenas lurking near waterholes, and early humans huddled around fires for protection. But what if one of the most significant competitors our ancestors faced wasn't a carnivore at all, but another primate? One so massive, it would tower over any human alive today. Meet Dinopithecus ingens, the terrible ape of Pleistocene Africa. Standing over 1.5 meters, or around 5 feet tall when upright and weighing up to 150 kilograms, or 330 pounds, it was nearly 5 times heavier than today's largest baboons. These colossal primates shared the African landscape with Australopithecus, an early Homo species, between roughly 3 to 2 million years ago. Yet, despite their imposing presence during this pivotal chapter of prehistory, they remain virtually unknown outside of specialized scientific circles. Dinopithecus belongs to the family Cercopithecidae, the Old World monkeys, rather than the hominoid family. Specifically, it's classified within the subfamily Papionini alongside modern baboons, geladas, and mangabes. Despite this taxonomic distance from humans, Dinopithecus represents one of the most remarkable examples of primate gigantism in the fossil record. The genus first entered scientific literature in 1938, when paleontologist Robert Broom described Dinopithecus ingens based on fossil remains from Schuurverberg, near Pretoria, South Africa. The name itself tells a story. Dino, from the Greek for terrible or fearfully great. Pithecus, meaning ape or monkey, and ingens, meaning huge in Latin. A fitting title for a creature that pushed the boundaries of what we thought primates could become. Subsequent discoveries have primarily come from cave sites in South Africa, including Swartkrans and Cooper's Cave, locations famously associated with early hominin remains. Fossil evidence includes partial skulls, mandibles, and postcranial elements that allow paleontologists to reconstruct its appearance and lifestyle. Most fossils date to between 3 and 2 million years ago, placing Dinopithecus firmly in the Pleistocene epoch alongside early Australopithecus and Homo species. Physically, Dinopithecus was a scaled-up baboon built for terrestrial power. Its skull alone measured up to 30 centimeters in males and featured an elongated muzzle, enlarged canines, and a prominent sagittal crest for anchoring massive jaw muscles, indicators of both feeding strength and male-male competition. The mandible was exceptionally robust, with a deep body adapted to handle powerful chewing forces, far beyond what is seen in modern baboons. Dental analysis shows a heavy emphasis on grinding plant material. Large molars with thick enamel point to a diet that included fibrous vegetation, seeds, and tubers, foods that required prolonged mastication. These adaptations suggest Dinopithecus could exploit tough resources that smaller primates couldn't process efficiently, offering a survival edge in diverse or fluctuating environments. Still, for all that chewing power, it needed a body that could carry the weight, literally. Though fossilized postcranial remains are fragmentary, they leave no doubt. This was a ground dweller built like a fortress. The bones are dense, the muscle attachments oversized, and the proportions suggest a primate that moved low and heavy. It wasn't agile, but it didn't need to be. It was stable, durable, a 4-limbed tank that could traverse both woodland and savanna. Now here's where the social structure gets fascinating. Sexual dimorphism in Dinopithecus was extreme, even more pronounced than in modern baboons. Males may have weighed up to twice as much as females and bore significantly larger canines and cranial crests. This suggests intense male competition, likely involving physical confrontations and dominance displays, a social structure where size directly translated to reproductive success. Yet all this leaves Dinopithecus somewhere in the middle of its ecosystem. Its size positioned it as a mesopredator, both hunter and hunted. It likely fed on fruits, seeds, roots, and small animals, while remaining vulnerable to apex predators like saber-toothed cats or large hyenas. Its bulk, strength, and potential for aggressive defense would have made it a formidable opponent, one that early hominins may have respected, avoided, or even competed with. Modern baboons are notoriously territorial, confrontational, and quick to violence when threatened, and Dinopithecus almost certainly took that to the extreme. With large dominant males leading the charge, a threatened troop could have erupted into an explosion of noise, displays, and physical retaliation. Raised hackles, deafening vocalizations, and jaw-clapping would have been the first warning. But if that didn't work, those massive canines weren't just for show. A provoked Dinopithecus, especially a protective male, could have delivered devastating bites and powerful strikes capable of injuring or killing mid-sized predators. Some paleontologists estimate Dinopithecus could have delivered bite forces comparable to those of big cats, perhaps reaching or even exceeding 2,000 pounds of crushing force, more than enough to crush bone or tear through muscle. And it wasn't just lone strength. Like modern papillonins, they likely lived in social groups, meaning confrontation didn't just mean facing one, it meant facing many. A defensive circle of 10 to 20 large-bodied primates, all bristling with muscle and rage, would have been a serious deterrent to even large carnivores. Or, for that matter, early hominins. This wasn't a creature that backed down easily. It didn't need to. During the Pleistocene era, when Dinopithecus thrived, South Africa was undergoing significant climatic shifts. For a primate of its exceptional size, these changes brought both unique challenges and new opportunities. Forests were gradually giving way to more open woodlands and grasslands, a transition that favored adaptable, ground-dwelling species. Fossil sites where Dinopithecus remains have been found suggest it inhabited a mosaic landscape of open savanna, interspersed with woodlands and riverine forests, environments not unlike those preferred by modern baboons. Troop life in Dinopithecus likely mirrored that of modern baboons, but on a far more intimidating scale. These multi-male, multi-female groups were probably structured around rigid dominance hierarchies, with adult males asserting their rank through visual displays and, when necessary, brutal physical confrontations. With some males weighing up to 150 kilograms, these clashes were anything but subtle. Adult males likely positioned themselves on the outskirts of the troop, forming a living barrier against potential predators. At dawn, the group would descend from cliffs or tall trees, safe havens used to avoid nocturnal hunters. From there, the day began with movement and lots of eating. Which brings us to the real daily challenge: fuel. Feeding likely consumed much of the daylight hours. Adult males may have needed up to 7 kilograms of plant matter daily: grasses, seeds, fruits, bulbs, tubers, all requiring tremendous chewing power. And while plants formed the base of their diet, they weren't strictly herbivores. Like their modern relatives, Dinopithecus likely supplemented with animal protein, small vertebrates, insects, scavenged carcasses. But here's the twist. With their size and strength, they may have taken things further. Juvenile antelope, or the young of larger prey animals, weren't out of the question. And when it came to disputed carcasses, their bulk alone may have been enough to intimidate other predators into backing off. Much like modern papillonins, Dinopithecus likely relied on a rich set of vocalizations, facial cues, body postures, and physical contact. With brains scaled to their size and complex social structures to manage, their interactions were probably just as nuanced, broadcasting everything from individual rank to predator warnings with a glance or a grunt. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of Dinopithecus is its temporal and geographic overlap with early human species. Between approximately 3 and 2 million years ago, as Dinopithecus roamed the South African landscape, the hominin presence was undergoing a period of remarkable change. Species like Australopithecus were being joined by early Homo. Upright walking had become well established, brain sizes were growing, and the first stone tools were appearing. This was the crucible of humanity, and Dinopithecus was there to witness it. The fossil evidence places Dinopithecus ingens in direct association with hominin remains at several critical sites. At Swartkrans and Cooper's Cave in South Africa's Cradle of Humankind, Dinopithecus fossils have been found in the same deposits as Australopithecus robustus and early Homo specimens. This wasn't just proximity across a landscape. These primates inhabited the same immediate environments, drank from the same water sources, sheltered in the same cave systems, and likely observed each other regularly. The size disparity alone would have created a power imbalance. Early hominins stood approximately 1.2 to 1.5 meters or 4 to 5 feet tall and weighed between 30 to 55 kilograms or 66 to 121 pounds. They would have been significantly outmatched by adult male Dinopithecus, which averaged around 80 kilograms or 175 pounds, with larger individuals reaching up to 150 kilograms or 330 pounds, armed with formidable canines and superior upper body strength. Even the smaller female Dinopithecus would have presented a physical threat. Competition for resources was inevitable. Both groups were omnivorous with overlapping dietary preferences, though with different specializations. Early hominins were developing adaptations for a more versatile diet, including meat obtained through scavenging and possibly hunting, while Dinopithecus likely specialized in efficiently processing large quantities of plant materials. Nevertheless, both would have sought out the same high-value food resources: fruits, nuts, tubers, and water sources, creating potential conflict points. And it wasn't just diet that brought them into contact. Both groups favored mosaic environments offering a mix of woodlands for shelter and open areas for foraging. Both likely needed trees or cliff faces for nighttime safety from predators. Both would have been drawn to reliable water sources, particularly during dry seasons. This shared preference for similar habitats would have ensured regular encounters between the species. The responses of early hominins to Dinopithecus were likely complex and situational. Direct competition was probably avoided when possible, with hominins developing greater behavioral flexibility to compensate for their physical disadvantage. This might have included adjusting activity patterns to avoid peak Dinopithecus feeding times, developing more efficient foraging strategies, or utilizing tools to access food resources unavailable to even the powerful Dinopithecus. One intriguing possibility is that the presence of Dinopithecus may have accelerated hominin tool use and cooperation. When confronted with larger, more physically imposing competitors, our ancestors may have been pressured to develop technological solutions and stronger social bonds. The ability to crack open nuts with stone tools, dig for tubers with sharpened sticks, or coordinate group defense would have provided critical advantages in a landscape shared with these megamonkeys. Then there were the predators. The predator dynamics of shared habitats create another fascinating dimension of interaction. Both Dinopithecus and early hominins faced threats from the same impressive array of Pleistocene carnivores, including various big cats, hyenas, and crocodiles. The presence of a Dinopithecus troop might have provided inadvertent protection for nearby hominins, as predators would be less likely to attack when confronted with multiple large, aggressive male Dinopithecus. Conversely, a small hominin group might attract predator attention that could then spill over to nearby Dinopithecus. And eventually, Dinopithecus vanished around 1.8 to 1.6 million years ago. Climate change likely played the biggest role in its decline, as expanding grasslands and shrinking woodlands disrupted food availability and shelter. On top of that, competition from smaller, more adaptable baboons may have outpaced Dinopithecus, especially as shifting environments began to favor generalists. The rise of Homo erectus added new challenges: more advanced tool use, broader diets, and overlapping ecological needs likely intensified resource competition. Predation dynamics may have also shifted. Emerging carnivores increased risks, particularly for juveniles. And while harder to confirm, disease could have contributed as well. Socially cohesive species are often vulnerable to outbreaks. The very traits that once made Dinopithecus successful, large size, slow reproduction, and dietary specialization, may have ultimately left it exposed. Its extinction echoes the broader trend of large-bodied species disappearing during the Pleistocene, not in sudden collapse, but through gradual decline under mounting pressures. And while Dinopithecus disappeared, early humans remained, stepping deeper into a world that was only getting more dangerous. Don't miss out on our next video. This is Roaring Echo. Thank you for watching.